Good morning, everyone. If I could please have your attention. Thank you all so much for being here early on a Saturday morning. We would like to thank Attorney Ohiku for sponsoring this clinic for us today. We hope to get as many of you who are eligible for expungement, get your paperwork done, and get that into the court. We're going to begin with our panel discussion. I will have each one of our speakers introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll get into your questions right away, okay?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Odalo Ohiku. I sponsor the expungement clinic because I know that it's very important and a lot of people can benefit from it. The only issue is trying to help more people become eligible. But we are all here on this Saturday morning because we feel that it's an important issue. That's why we're here, and we're here to answer your questions.
My name is my name is David Crowley. I am the state representative of the 17th Assembly District. I am a freshman legislator, but not a freshman to the legislature. I had the opportunity to work for State Senator Nakia Harris-Dodd for 4 years before becoming elected myself. But this is an issue that we are constantly fighting at the state level. I would definitely want to hear your questions so I can answer to the best of my ability on what the issues are at the state level and what we can do to help push expungements for everyone.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Carl Ashley. I'm a Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge. And I just got to give Odalo Ohiku a big shout out. He has orchestrated this opportunity for this to take place. And we think it's extraordinarily important to give you the opportunity to get some resources to address some of these issues. And I've been a judge for 18 years, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. And I'm going to explain that maybe State Representative Crowley has more to do with what I'm ultimately going to talk about changing the law so that there's more opportunity for people to have expungement, but I'm sure we'll get some questions about that.
Good morning. I'm Chris Abley. I'm the county executive. My relationship to MATC is right now I've appointed most of the current board, including a lot more city folks, Ashanti Hamilton, Darian Driver, and a whole lot of folks whose entire career is about empowering people. So for 6 years at the county, we've been adding workforce training, we've been adding opportunities for jobs. And personally, here at MATC, I've funded and helped fundraise for the Promise Initiative, which is about 3,000 worth scholarships, tuition-free for 2 years. Tuition-free. Here's the thing that's become clear, and you guys all know this. I've watched people who are trying to put their lives back together, taking their classes, doing the right thing, qualified, and not able to get a job, even when they're more qualified than other people who are available because of some 10-year-old, minor record and an inability to do what a lot of other states do, which is when you show that you're on the right track, to clean up your record. And I've seen what a difference it makes. And to be fair to Representative Crowley, he's on the right side of this one. The unfortunate part is he's, for the time being, pretty outnumbered by people of the state who we're working on. The judge and I on the way in here were talking about what does it take? How do we have to talk about this issue in Madison to get legislatures to say, you know what, if you do have a more progressive policy around expungement, not only are you not going to have less public safety, there are plenty of states that have much more progressive policy on expungement, like Minnesota, that have less crime and more people getting jobs. Sometimes you just have to get by these sort of inherited stereotypes that people have, but it's obviously it's a priority for me. Thanks to MATC for hosting. Thanks to Attorney Ohiku for putting this together, and he's the guy you have to thank for all the coffee and food over there. So thank you for that too. And the time and effort. We all get to choose where we put our time and effort, and I have a lot of respect for people who, not because they have to, but because they care, put their time on a Saturday morning into something that really matters. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
If the question is who's has the ability to take advantage of the expungement statute, the real limitations are it's you've got to have committed the offense before you were age 25. All right, 25 is the cutoff age. After that, it depends on the gravity of the offense. If it's, and that's something new that they now allow. It used to be just misdemeanors, but now the law allows for lower felonies, and that's an I felony, which is a maximum of 3.5 years in prison, or H felonies, which is 6 years in prison. So those are the two qualifiers to be involved in this. And one of the frustrations I have is that the expungement statute requires something to happen in front of the judge at the time of the sentencing. So what does that mean? That means that if you have not gotten the opportunity to have the judge grant you the opportunity for expungement at that sentencing, then you can't get it. Now, when the law first changed, a few of us judges were looking at the law and saying, we weren't sure whether they meant you really had to do it in front of the judge at the time of sentencing. And I took the position, and some of my colleagues, that we weren't sure. So we were saying, we'll do it now. And then in 2014, there was a case that came down and said, stop that. If it wasn't granted at the time of the sentencing, we cannot go back and change it. And that's one of the unfortunate things. And I know Representative Crowley is very supportive of changes that are more progressive. But as it is now, that's one huge limitation. And I know County Executive Eagley, that's what he's talking about, that these barriers that we have in the law, judges can't do anything about it. In fact, my hands were slapped about trying to do that. So we need legislative change to expand it so that we are more reasonable about this. Because some of these opportunities should be available to folks. I hope that in some ways, but I'm going to turn it over to my also panelists.
Absolutely. I mean, the judge hit it right on the head. But the thing is that I don't want you to be discouraged, even if you don't fit in within that list of being able to get expunged. See, one of the issues that we need, we need your stories to come to the state capitol. Because the thing is that I can be in front of these individuals and talk about how we need expungements. Let me backtrack. My first job right out of high school was working at Project Return, helping ex-offenders find employment and housing. And I realized that it was a very difficult job. And so when I got involved in politics, that's one of the things that I really hammered on, the fact that we need to allow a route for people to get expungements. We need to hear these stories, and it's not to say that the state of Wisconsin isn't moving towards that. This past Thursday, we heard on Assembly Bill 91, which will basically allow a judge, if you are committed of a first-time offense of a class I felony, the judge will have the ability to, after you finish your sentencing, to say whether that will be dropped down to a misdemeanor. So there are some things that are coming down the pipeline, but we also have some allies as well, because as some of the folks on my side of the aisle, we've tried to do things as far as eliminating the CCAP, so people wouldn't be able to just go on CCAP and look at people's records. When we talk to the clerk of courts literally would rather us do expungements. They want the transparency, but they would rather see expungements. So it's really talking to the folks who don't live in the city of Milwaukee, don't live in southeastern Wisconsin, to help them understand that we need this route for expungements. And with that said, I would say that is slowly coming. They have now tacked on mandatory minimums. They haven't passed through the whole legislature yet, but they're passing through committees to have more mandatory minimums, meaning that we will be locking up more people, which means that we're going to have possibly less and less people going into our workforce. So I think that as they see more of our jails being full, and at some point we got to figure out where we're going to put more people, because they're always putting more people in jail because our prisons are so full. I think that they're going to start thinking about expungements relatively soon. And I know that one of my colleagues, Representative Goyke, has really been hammering that, as well as Senator Lena Taylor.
Thank you. You have a question right here?
So that means that they're gonna start working on the cases that are from the early 90s then? Because right now, the early people that caught in the early 90s, they don't qualify for this particular class, I would think.
No, this isn't retroactive. No, but they are starting to understand when we hear this workforce argument, right? They're saying that people can't get into the workforce, or people can't find the companies can't find the people to come work in these companies. Well, the issue is is because of the felony restrictions many of these companies have. The fact that they are literally going into a person's background before they even get a chance to interview. So we are looking at different things, whether we're talking about banning the box as far as applications, as far as employment. But when you talk about the retroactiveness of doing expungements, that's something that we are literally pushing for, is really getting the folks on the other side of the aisle to really listen to us.
Yes, I just found out that I'm not going to be qualified for this program, but as an older person, been shot down from jobs to jobs to jobs. I'm 50 years old, disabled. If I just want to clean up my record, period, before I pass away or die, how do I get this off my record? Or, because I've been trying to go back to see the judge. Everybody says, go back to see the judge. Well, the judge is no longer there. They won't give you another judge to see, it's just a runaround. So I'm trying to figure out, I see that the program is not for me, it's for the younger class. I understand that. I'm just trying to figure out, are you guys going to be setting up something for the older people that don't want to have that burden on them, in the future?
I don't want you to leave. And I know you're saying, well, look, you already told me this is not going to apply to me. Why am I here? And I want to go to what the state representative said, because you need to be our voices. You need to take this message and talk to your legislators. Because if we're going to change what's going on, Representative Crowley and those others fighting for this need our voices, need to know what this means to you. You're saying to us, look, I've done that long time ago. Don't I have the right to be able to step forward and demonstrate based on my not being involved in anything else that I can get that done? Now, let me be clear to you guys about what expungement is. Expungement doesn't mean that your prior convictions are vacated or disappear. It's access. It's people's ability to look at it, which is huge. So I don't want you to be frustrated, sir, but I think your voice, and that's what Representative Crowley's saying, that voice of frustration about someone who's turned their life around can't get acknowledgement that has occurred. So not just for you, but for others, your voice is very meaningful. So I'd like to think that you don't feel like it was a total waste coming today. You're hearing this message, and your voice means something.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, the importance of showing up and telling your story. The reason is a lot of people who make laws in this state that impact Milwaukee are people who either have never been to Milwaukee or they've been here once years ago. They're way up northwest, and they're all different parts of the state, and they have these ideas when they think about this issue. I know this sounds crazy, but in their mind there are seriously some people who think, yeah, somebody who just committed an armed robbery is going to go walking into the office with their guns on their belt and say, hey, give me a job. What they don't understand, and what they need to hear, is when someone is right in front of them saying, look, I'm doing things right, I'm working hard, I'm taking classes, I've stayed out of trouble, I'm passing my courses, I am committed, I got a family. When they see that, it's very, very powerful, more than you think. A perfect example, were any of you out when you saw we had the National Day Without Latinos here. This was just about a month ago outside the courthouse. A lot of people were saying, oh, it's probably not going to be too many people. It was the single largest, that was a national event. We had the single largest turnout in the United States. There were 30,000 people, and I know because I was looking out over them, but here's the other part. What people expected, the people who were worried about it, they're like, oh, we're going to have this big crowd, it's going to be riots, it's going to be whatever. And what they looked out and they saw 30,000 people who were saying, we are working. We want to keep working. We love this country. There wasn't a single event, and just the effect of that, the more, for every elected who was there, especially the ones who are maybe on the other side, they're like, oh, maybe it's not this crazy comic book notion I have. Because the problem is, in the absence of reality, when people don't actually see and hear from people that they're making laws about, they sometimes fill in the vacuum in very, very cartoonish ways. I know Representative Crowley has seen this sometimes. We've all heard occasionally somebody talking about some problem they're trying to address, and it's one that we have some personal experience with, and you're just looking at them thinking, what what planet are you on? That's not what happens. But that's why it really makes a difference and it matters. And as Representative Crowley said, it's telling your story and letting them realize, hey, you know, we're all sons and fathers and brothers and sisters. We all have families. We all think we're all human beings like they are. And when they get that connection and they see where you are in your life, you know, people respond to that. The problem is these things don't change when we don't go to Madison and we let them hang on to their stereotypes, as ridiculous as they are. So don't underestimate the power and the impact of being able to show up and just let people hear you out, and they'll hear you out.
The one thing that I want to add is I want you all to know that this man seated to my right, your state rep, he has told me that he was going to be here today about 6 months ago. So I can tell you that he's dedicated to this issue, as well as Judge Ashley and the county exec. And in terms of you know, not leaving here once you find out that you're not eligible, that's why he's here, okay? Because he does need to hear your voice in terms of, you know, making more people eligible. But from my perspective, you know, I want you leaving here being helped in some type of way. That's why you got these organizations over here who are here to assist you, so that you're at least leaving with something. And then a lot of times people, you might not be able to get you know, your case expunged because it's not a Class H or Class I felony, or because you're too old. But a lot of people have no process cases, right, or dismissed cases. There's a process to get no process cases and dismissed cases, you know, off of your record too, so that when people do background checks, you know, they're not showing up. So this packet here that we provided, we've been doing these clinics, this is our third consecutive year. So this information that we put in here is all stuff that through the years we found that people find useful and helpful. So we put a lot of information in here that we think, you know, will help you one way or another.
This is ridiculous. I've been gone from Wisconsin for 15 years now. I mean, who didn't do something at 17? I'm 41 years old now. I have a family, you understand? I graduated from Marquette, then went down to Memphis, Tennessee, and got 2 masters. Counseling, educational psychology, mental health and research, and behavior analysis. You understand? I come back here, I got offered director positions. They're being snatched back from me because I kicked in the door. You understand? I can't feed my kids. I go find out and I dig. I find out that that's what it's for and I can't get a job. Now I'm trying to get it expunged. I'm trying to go everywhere and do everything that I can to get it off because of this one little misdemeanor. What do you want me to do? Then I don't know, well, epilepsy is none of your business, but this is destroying my life. There's nothing no one can do. So either I move back out of state, you know, to a state that'll allow it, you understand, it'll allow me to work and live properly, or, you know, I don't know what to do. And this was the last, you know, chance. You know, someone saw this on TV for me. I go down to the public defender's office. I'm trying to, the judge who did the case, he's still alive. I try to track him down. I try to write letters. I try to do everything that I can. You know, I'm not that person.
You know what, I hear you. You know what, you can't see me on the other side. Is this on? Is this on? Yeah. Okay. Ma'am, oh, she gone. Oh, please don't leave yet, ma'am. You know what, how impassioned was that? And that's based on your life story. And how tragic is that consequence on something you did so long ago? So let me just get you straight. Judges, I don't know what the judge was. I've been a judge for 18 years, but I've been a lawyer for 33. And so I was a defense attorney. And I have to tell you, you know that frustration that you have? I have it too. I have it too. When I have people in front of me who tell me or call me or write letters to me and say, Judge Ashley, I've turned my life around. I'm a different person. I was a young person when that happened. And look what I've done and I've accomplished since then. And you're telling me you can't help me? And ma'am, I feel you. And I wish I could say yes. And that's why I was one of the judges that tried to play on that edge when the law changed about whether or not I really read the law to say that you had to be granted that opportunity at the time of sentencing. For a couple of years, we were skating right around that. But then that case came down and it was clear I could not do that because I have to follow the law. But you being here, and Mr. Crowley, I know that Representative Crowley's like eating that up because that's the kind of voice. That's the type of narrative. And as county executive said, that's what we need the legislators to hear. Senator Taylor, Representative Goyke, they need this kind of support. And I've also said, I've talked to some Republicans who also, sort of off the record, are saying to me, I'm for that. But my constituents, I don't know how it's going to play. But the more voices that we hear with that kind of narrative to show how absolutely absurd it is. Because we were supposed to be a community of second chances. The county executive and I were talking about that walking in. What's this thing about second chances? Isn't that what our whole society is about? That when you turn your life around, you don't have to be barred by something you did long ago. And your story really speaks loudly that this stuff ain't right. So I know how frustrating, and I wish I could give you what you need, but I'm not allowed it. I'm gonna turn it over to my colleagues.
I would just say that, well, one, we know that there are thousands of people affected by this. We know that we could be in a much bigger room and pack the house and talk about this particular issue. But the other thing is that even though you may not be able to take advantage of what's being here today, I guarantee we all know somebody who can. And when we talk about that, we may not be able to take advantage, but let's make sure we take this back to somebody that can take advantage, but also understanding that there's a movement that needs to happen as far as people who have been incarcerated, those who have been affected by incarceration, step up and talk about this issue. I have an older brother who was incarcerated when I was in high school. When he came out, I have my own feelings about incarceration. I'm actually trying to abolish solitary confinement here in the state of Wisconsin. And I don't think that we need that because I think that those are the type of things that exacerbate mental health issues and things of that nature. So we know that there's a lot of issues as it relates to this, but don't get discouraged because it may not affect you right now, but it will affect somebody. I guarantee you at some point we're going to be able to get your story out there and it's going to touch somebody. And that's what I need as an elected official. I need the stories. I need to understand how this affects many people to bring this back to my colleagues. I'm gonna ask one thing and then I'm gonna kind of shut up a little bit because as a politician I know we can talk a little while. Raise your hand if you or somebody you know has had a felony that's more than 10 years old. Keep them raised. Keep them raised if you know somebody with a felony or you have a felony that's more than 20 years old. So we see that this is affecting many people. Affecting many people. And it's affecting more younger people now because they still don't get that ability unless the judge still says it. So we need you folks here, even if you are discouraged, we need you. We seriously need you. And those who have a felony or know somebody with a felony for more than 20 years, how many people have actually lobbied their elected official or lobbied the state to get the expungements changed, the expungement laws changed? We just had a budget hearing session here from the state of Wisconsin. How many people went to talk about how we need expungements in the state of Wisconsin? Well, they were just here at State Fair on Wednesday. Okay? And so, how many people knew that they were pushing a Blue Lives Matter bill here in the state of Wisconsin? Right? These are, and it's not to say this is your fault, this is our fault as elected officials, making sure we put this information out there, but this is a thing that we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about these particular issues because when we talk about the criminal justice system, and this is nothing against the attorney and the judge, but we know that it's a broken system. And so we need to speak up as citizens, as ex-offenders, as elected officials, but more so as family members who have been affected by this system to help them understand that we need this to change because the people who are hurt the most are the families. Because I guarantee you, these are mothers and fathers, uncles and brothers, aunties and aunties that are affected, so.
And then if I can just chime in, and what I wanted to say to you, you're about to walk out, but what I wanted to say to you is, if there's a way that I can help you, I will. Besides what's being said here, there's also something that's called a petition to seal. Okay, so that's asking the court, asking the judge, well, I don't qualify for these other things, but would you at least seal, this case? Okay, so that's another option. So please, you have my contact information. I'm more than happy to see if I can help you with that. Okay, so but that is one option. So never give up hope, right? Okay, and then one thing that I wanted to say too that you should keep in mind is, not that long ago, the only thing that you could expunge from a record was misdemeanors, right? But now it's Class H and I felonies. So that says that if we use our voices, right, that says that it can be changed, right? It can be expanded. And you know that because it has been expanded. It used to be just misdemeanors. If you had a felony prior to July 1st, 2009, you were out of luck, right? It was only misdemeanors. But they expanded it. So don't give up hope. We just gotta use our voices to make sure that the politicians, say that this is a big issue in society and they gotta do something about it.
For how long though?
It's a struggle. It's like ice skating uphill, right? This is a difficult task. But we all have to realize that literally this is the civil rights movement of our time. And when we talk about the civil rights movement, it did not happen in a day. We do not have any superheroes that's going to just go ahead and change everything right today. And I understand that it is a struggle, and it's like, how much time is it going to take? But understand that we need everybody on board. The more voices that we have in Madison, the more voices we have here in the city of Milwaukee talking about this, the more we can push the needle. Especially when we know that majority of the people who are in prisons are coming from southeastern Wisconsin to fill up prisons in central and northern Wisconsin. So we know that. And so, some would say that even if we do reduce the inmates that are going to prison, then, we may mess up somebody's economy, right? Because we know we have prison towns and prison counties here in the state of Wisconsin. But we can fight against this. We literally can. And just like the attorney said, we're making slow steps, but we need everybody's hands on deck. And I'm not saying that you don't have a right to be upset. I'm not going to say that you don't have a right to say that, I don't want to be here. But you have a right to make sure that your voice is heard. And if you don't let your voice be heard, then I would ask, what are we really doing to tackle this issue? Because it's going to be your experiences that's going to push this even further.
I know for ourselves, my daughter, she got a felony when she was 18 years old. So now she's 33. She does have a good job, which she's very lucky. She got a good job, but it has affected renting apartments. She cannot go on field trips with her children. She's married, she's been married and has kids. She's not eligible to pass background checks, to go on field trips, or be a room mother, anything like that. And then the other thing, I know from my past experience of being a manager of a major fast food company, I had been told many times as a manager that I could not hire felons. They would look online on the CCAP whatever website, and the upper management would just tell me if they didn't like it, they could sue them, and they had more money than people do. And these were entry-level jobs at a fast food restaurant at a major corporation. And so it happens. I know it happens. I've seen it firsthand. And the other question is, where do we go to get help? Where do you go to lobby to get these laws changed? Her felony, she's 33 years old now, and this happened when she was 18, and she doesn't qualify.
Well, you have to talk to your legislator, but
But how? How do you do that?
Well, you can always go. You can literally Google "Find My Representative Wisconsin" and put in your address, and it will tell you who your legislator is at the state level. And I would tell you to write, to call, to visit, to do all those things. But it's not just important to talk to your legislator, especially when you know that your legislator is on your side. You should also talk to the governor. You should also make sure you send letters to the clerk of courts and some of the judges, because they're elected too. I mean, I love the fact that Judge Ashley is here because he's telling you where he is on the issue, and we need more judges to step up. But not only those folks as well, even our employers should be stepping up. And so right now we do have some employers that are sitting there saying they're not necessarily in the city of Milwaukee and outside of Milwaukee County, because right now the worker shortage is outside the county. So they're saying, bring us some felons because we're willing to hire them, right? But it's also making sure that we give the people who have been incarcerated the confidence to go after these jobs. If I've been out for 20 years and for the past 20 years it's been a struggle for me to get a job, how am I going to have that confidence to go get a job if everybody's been turning me down? And so we need to make sure that we're working with these individuals to sit there, but also putting in place systems, one, by eliminating the box on job applications. They would rather sit there and say, they would rather give businesses immunity to sit there and say that this will help us hire felons, because they don't believe that we can hire a felon and everything will go right. But not understand that you can get this person bonded, just in case you feel like this person won't do the best of job. There's many steps that many employers can take, but we need to make sure that we have a cohesive coalition of individuals talking about this. I mean, right now, a lot of people look at that well, most people would look at this and say, well, this is a Milwaukee issue. But it's not. And it won't be, because, again, we're putting on more laws on the books and lock more people up. But the other thing is, this is too expensive. Right now, we're spending just as much money on our correction system that we put towards our UW systems. So we have to talk about this. We have to talk about this. But also understanding that, it's going to take some baby steps. And this is going to be a long journey. But it's a journey that I'm willing to take.
I just want to say that I feel the young lady's frustration, a little bit emotional about it, because it's like, I just want my rights back. This happened before I was 21 and I'm 51, and I can't get a concealed carry, and it's just a lot of things that show up on the CCAP when people do background checks. But thank God that I got a good job that didn't hold this against me. But I still want my rights back, because I want to conceal the carry. I want to open up a business. The business that I want to open up, I can't open it up because I have this on my record. So I'm like her, I wanted to leave too, but everybody needs a voice, and I need to be heard, because I want my name back. And that's what's holding me, is this that happened with my old name. And once they release that, then everything, it opens up for me. It's a lot of barriers. And I just want these barriers to come down, because tomorrow's not promised to me. I'm trying to move forward, and this is holding me back. So I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional about it.
You don't need to apologize for being emotional about it. We got 47 circuit court judges in Milwaukee County, and most of my colleagues would enjoy the opportunity to give people expungement. We can't do it. And I heard the comments, ma'am, about you and your daughter and the issues you're dealing with and the frustrations about timing. How long do we have to wait? And I wish there was a quick fix, but I want to echo Representative Crowley's statements that it is going to take work. And the question is, there is a real reasonable thought that, you know what, screw this. I'm going to walk out of here. It's not helping me. Things are just moving too slow, and I'm done with this. I'm gonna leave Wisconsin, like, ma'am, I know there's I'm gonna just leave Wisconsin, but that is not necessarily gonna help you. So I really want you to understand that it's gonna take work, and I'm just asking you to do that. I'm just asking you to think about not just your circumstance, because there are people behind you, and there's people in front of you, and every voice counts. So I want to, if you don't know who your representative is, your state senator, your rep, assembly rep, Google it. I Googled it the other day, and you can Google who your who your representatives are, who are supposed to be fighting for what you want. And you need to create a relationship. I know my daughter's up in Madison and she works in Senator Taylor's office and she deals with complaints that comes through. And she enjoys responding to people's concerns. So there are people in Representative Crowley's office, in your senator's office, whose job it is to get that information and gather that information. So at some time when I go to work and after maybe sentencing someone or realizing I can't give expungement, that's pretty hard on that person, but I want to echo, it's not just that person, it's the family, it's the extended family. I was doing a presentation 20 years ago at a Burger King, and I was talking to some students, and I walk out, and one of the guys working behind the counter, that you can't remember it, he ran out and grabbed me, and I'm like, whoa. He said, Judge, I've been working here for 2 years. I'm a good employee. And they talked about advancing me. And they looked at my record.
He got fired.
He didn't get fired, but he couldn't get promoted. And he looked at me with tears. This is a big brother. With tears in his eyes telling me that he got a family. He did this 10 years ago. I've been doing nothing but positive things. This doesn't make sense, Judge Ashley. And I had to look him in the eye and said, I'm not going to, you're not going to get expungement. And I told him the next thing was clemency or pardon from the governor. Well, I don't need to elaborate on that. I don't think the governor's given a pardon or clemency to anybody, and he's been in that office a long time. But what I'm trying to say to you, despite your frustration, which is real, and I don't blame you for saying give up, I'm asking you not to. I'm asking you to fight for what you want, but also the people in front of you and behind you. Talk to your legislator. Find out who it is. And just take the time to sit there and write something. Or you can email them now too. So send them something. Because I just wish more opportunities for other legislators to hear what we're hearing today. And I think Representative Crowley talked about it. I know County Executive Abley knows, and certainly Adalo knows about these frustrations. And I'm just glad you're here. I just hope that when you walk out of here today, you walk out with some sense that you individually can make a difference. That you individually can make a difference. If you're willing to come today, how long would it take you to write a little note and talk about this panel? Talk about being here. And something needs to be done. So please don't get so frustrated that you lose the sense that we as a people can do better. And you can be a part of that.
Hi, I just want to try to get clarification on this. You all want us to pay forward the old felons, the ones before 2009. You just want us to pay forward for the young felons after 2009 to show them that they could fight. Wait 1 minute. Now, I don't have no problem with that, standing up for them. You know, I don't. But my concern is with me. I have this job that I cannot get out of if I wanted to because of a felon. I done tried jobs after jobs after jobs, so I feel like I'm incarcerated once again. And I don't like that feeling. I like to move up the ladder, you know. And who knows if this job might fall through. Then what? Where that leave me? Without a job, they can't support my family, and so on, just go downhill for us who have felon before the 2009. I get it, y'all want us to pay for it. I get that part. But what about us? You got to help us. You know, we falling, we are sinking. Y'all have to have a ship for us to hold on to. It's ridiculous. I feel like I'm incarcerated again, even though I'm not physically, I'm emotionally, I'm mentally. I'm incarcerated. Y'all gotta have help for us instead of us paying for it. Where's y'all are for us? And that's what we all sitting here for. Majority of us have old cases. There is no young ones up in here, but this is 1 or 2. We need help to help them. Do you know that these young felons see us out here not receiving help? They don't even want to fight. It's like they don't do nothing for you all, so why they gonna do, how you think they gonna do something for us? And I get that part. I have children who have felons. They see that, but they're not doing anything for you, Mom, so why are they gonna do anything for us? We are their hope, but where is our hope for them to have hope? It starts with us. Y'all skipping us.
Right.
Y'all are skipping us. I don't care how y'all sit up there on that board and say what y'all gonna say. Y'all are literally skipping us.
I want you. It's not we. Okay. It is not. It is not us. These are the laws that were passed before I even got involved in politics myself. Okay. And so when we talk about these laws, we can pass a law to affect everybody in this room. It's like, are we going to come together to pass a law to lobby the legislature to make it happen?
These are old cases, sir. These are 15,
That does not mean that we cannot pass a law to retroactively affect
Were
that.
we 90? Were we 90?
Excuse me, we will have to discontinue the panel. If we could just please allow our panelists to answer your questions in an orderly fashion, please and thank you.
Well, just, my thought on that, you're absolutely right. I mean, I look at this, and everybody looks at this, I wish this was the only law at the state level that makes very little sense. There are a lot of laws, but I think the point everybody's making, first, to echo what Representative Crowley said, he's on the right side of this issue. All of us are. All of us have talked to our state legislators about changing, and we still will. And nobody's saying, hey, I can't. I wish I could. I wish I could give you a date and say, hey, by this date, we'll pass this law. But what I can say with certainty is, if we don't get together and make our voice heard, I know then we're never going to get it passed. And I can also tell you that in the last 6 years, there was a long time, probably 35 years, where nobody thought we could reform the behavioral health division out at the mental health complex at the county. 35 years. And I and a whole lot of people spent a lot of time in Madison, and we had these conversations, and we brought people in, and they told their stories. And in 2013, something pretty amazing happened. They passed a law, 122 to 2. Every Republican and every Democrat. I mean, in hyper-partisan Wisconsin 2013, because nobody made it about politics, nobody made it about who wins or who loses, which team, whatever. It was about doing the right thing. But what made it work is a lot of people. It wasn't just us coming. It was people who were affected by the issue who tell their stories. And so when you hear Representative Crowley, because he's on the right side. He's one of the good guys. We're here because we want to get your story. Well, obviously we want to help, but also, I'll just tell you, I want to know people. I mean, the woman who has 2 masters is, when you were talking about that, I was thinking, the people we have to change the minds of are not, for the most part, just realistically, it's not the Democrats, it's Republicans. And to them, when I can say, okay, you tell me, you talk about these businesses you've got that have a hard time hiring high-skilled, qualified employees. Here's somebody with 2 masters. How often does that come by your desk? Who's qualified, who's thoughtful, who's intelligent, who's worked hard, and wants to work. And you're talking about something next to nothing that happened a zillion years ago. Can anybody tell me that the public benefits from this law? Who benefits? Nobody benefits from the law. Not employers, not taxpayers, not the state, not public safety. But that's the thing. They don't know that there's stories like that. And that's all the way back to Representative Crowley's point. The point is, the reason it isn't just, hey, hop on a bus, go out to Madison and talk to some people. The reason it's more than that is they won't hear your story otherwise. And until they meet real people, they have these crazy notions in their head. And I'll tell you right now, there are some organizations out there on the other side of this issue that don't want to change. And you know what the stories they tell are? They paint pictures. You know the type. They just say, hey, these people, lock them up, throw away the key. I work with a certain sheriff who has some kind of wacky ideas. I'm hoping that's going to end soon. But the problem is, he gets listened to. He's on TV all the time. And even though I listen to him, when I say, yeah, no, that's not what's happening. That's not all what's happening. Everyone else is looking, and they think it is. And what has to happen here is we need to fill in the vacuum and say, no, it's not what's happening. It's not the reality. This group is not who they think. You know, I mean, again, nobody can guarantee it'll happen by this time, but all of us can guarantee if we don't do that, we're never gonna get the change.
Just one more thing, ma'am, because you said, what about us? Not about those future people? We can get a law that would affect you. It doesn't have to be this way. There can be legislation passed that say you don't have to have it done the way it's done now, and it can go all the way back. That's changing the law. That's available. Other states do it. So to answer your question, it's not just about the people in front or behind you, it's also about you. Because the law could be changed, and Representative Crowley, I know, would advocate for such a change.
Right, and our state rep, he used the word retroactive. Retroactive means that a law, it's granted now, it passed now, but it goes back, it applies back, it covers people back. So that's what he's talking about when he says retroactive. And in terms of, you know, what I'm about to say right now is, I mean, never give up hope, right? I got one brother, he's been in prison since 1994. I grew up without my father, right? I got in a little trouble when I was 17. The only person who knows about it is Judge Ashley. Judge Ashley helped me out, right? But I got in a little trouble. The trouble should have prevented me from going to law school and being a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. This May, I'll be a lawyer for 15 years. People told me I would never be able to go to law school and become a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, so never give up hope. And for the other people, if you're not eligible for expungement right now, there is something that's called petition to seal, like I was saying to the other woman, okay? So if I can help you with a petition to seal, more than willing to help you. Everyone who showed up today, if there's something that I can do to help you, I'm not leaving. If I can help you, I'll do it.
And I'm gonna just say one thing. I'm gonna leave my cards here. And I wanted to know the stories, because what I would like to do is that every time that we are in session, I adjourn in honor, I would like to adjourn in honor of somebody who is an ex-offender and who is having troubles finding employment, especially if they are over the age of 40. Because this is the particular population that they are not listening to. So if I can adjourn in honor of somebody's experience all the time, it's not just me talking to the legislators, but it's also me talking to everybody who's watching that particular session to understand how this is impacting communities.
Thank you, man, for coming out, and I appreciate you and all your accomplishment, but you're not gonna like what I'm about to say. I didn't know we had to come in and tell a story. You all have heard these stories that we've given you all plenty of times before. I know you all had this meeting about 2 or 3 years ago or whatever, and I want to ask you all, did you all say the same old stuff last year ago? And also, too, we don't know the meetings that you talked about that we have to go to. Have we been to? Everybody raise hands. Have we been to these meetings? No, we haven't. Okay? A lot of this stuff that you all talking about is real positive. That's good. But a lot of people ain't been to these meetings or know our state representatives send letters out to do this, do that. No, we haven't. And also, I'm mad. I'm upset, but I want to be positive. Half the people that raise their hand, I hope that we aren't going to be the ones walking out of here, because it's going to be like 5 people that you're going to help. And I'm just upset, that's all. I'm sorry, and I hope that everybody, I heard you all stories, and that's nice that you all have your own stories, and that's good that you're a lawyer, that's nice. Thank you.
Just to quickly respond really quickly, I think this is the first time they've actually had somebody from the state of Wisconsin sit on this panel. I literally just started my job in this past January. So I can't really go back and speak for this particular panel. But what I do want to tell you is this, is that you have a right to be angry. You have the right to be upset. But I need your help, right? I need your help. I am the only freshman, I'm the most brand newest face in the Wisconsin legislature right now. And right now, I have the ability to actually go ahead and talk to some of these folks who disagree with me all the time, because I had the ability to work in this building for at least 4 years. When you talk about the stories, I hear many stories, and one story that I continuously talk about is my brother. I can talk about many stories because I grew up on 23rd and Burleigh and 22nd and Brown. What I'm saying to you as far as the stories for me is that it gives me the ability to put a name and give a story to get out to the masses of the people who don't live in the city of Milwaukee. And so when we talk about these stories, I can't speak for everybody else up here, but I'm talking about as a brand new freshman legislator, what I can do to make sure that we're bridging this gap. Because one of the reasons why they don't look at this particular population to help is because they feel like you're gone already. This is a particular population that some people feel.
Gonna be dead time anything happens.
When we talk about criminal justice, we can always personify this. It is personal. But we know that when we talk about the criminal justice system, it is way deeper than just us as individuals too. And so I'm not saying that you're not affected by this, and at the same time that you may not, I'm not gonna sit there and say you're gonna see this change in your lifetime. Because I can sit there and talk about what my grandma probably, the change that she didn't see in her lifetime that she felt that she should have seen. And so all I'm saying is that when we talk about the criminal justice system, this is the new Jim Crow. This is the new civil rights movement. And so we need people to be in this in the long term. I'm not sitting there saying don't be upset, but all I want to reinforce is that this is a long-term movement.
He's saying he needs us. That's what he's saying, he needs us.
We need to redirect that anger.
Redirect the anger to what they're trying to do. This can't help me, but I'm gonna help. That's all he's saying.
I feel like the questions that need to be asked are more so not why.
Why?
Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that?
Is
Like,
what?
do we need to do
What do
in
we
order
need
for
to
us
do?
to make an impact, for your voice to be heard up there in Madison?
And he's telling you, get on the internet, get on this, and it's not hard. That's all he's saying.
Before the next person goes, I do want to say that I practice what I preach. I work in the state capitol. My staffer is a 4-time felon. Okay, my staffer is a 4-time felon because I truly believe in bringing the experiences to the Capitol. And he talks to many of these individuals all the time, because we need to make sure that they actually see and understand how people are affected by this. And so I just wanted to go ahead and just throw that out there.
And then, Ms. Harmon, I promised the panelists that we would end sharply at 10 o'clock. If there's one last question that we can wrap up with, and again, everyone, if you have other questions, I'm not leaving. I will answer your questions, I promise.
And I'll be here for another half hour.
Okay, so I'm going to take this last question over here, and I just want to remind you during our clinic portion, you can talk one-on-one with one of our volunteers about your particular case. So all of our volunteers will be here. The panelists have mentioned they will be sticking around. Attorney Ohiku will be here the duration of the event, and I can answer your questions as well.
All right, thank you for taking your time on a Saturday to come here. I just had a question. There seems to be an issue with the lack of understanding between legislators and persons with felonies. Is there a strategic method that could create widespread awareness through social media that puts public pressure on legislators to pass a more lenient bill to those who've demonstrated a track record of law-abiding activity and have been productive community members?
Yeah, so the question was sort of a different version of what someone asked over here. What needs to happen just functionally to get to a change? So this is the law that needs to change is change at the state level, and it's the state legislature. Right now, the big majority in the Senate, the big majority in the Assembly are Republican. The way they think is not always the way that everybody else thinks, but advocacy for anything, when it works, it isn't about convincing the people who already agree with you, it's about convincing the people who don't. And you need sometimes to talk in their language. Legislators worry a lot about how they're going to be seen by their colleagues and by their constituents. So first, when you talk about other states where you can say, look, here's some states, you don't have to speculate, that have much more progressive laws and their crime has not skyrocketed, it's lower. But you know what they got? They got more people in the workforce, and they got more people getting back to work and getting their lives together. Second, if you can find people, say if it's Republicans who are hesitant, and you can find a state where, hey, look, here's a Republican state, they're okay with this, okay? Does that help? But that's the sort of thing they look at. The other thing, and you hit it on the head with social media, the legislators pay a lot of attention to kind of what's in the news. Sometimes, present company acceptance, some people are a little reactive, there'll be some story and everybody will toss out a bill to be the first one to say, I got a bill out on whatever issue. But they do pay attention, and if they start seeing and getting the sense that there's support for this, that this is a win for them, I mean, that I'm not saying it's the right way to think, but it is often how they think. That is usually when things can change. As Representative Crowley said, there are some Republicans who are okay with this idea. The problem is they're sort of the moderate Republicans, and then you get the way out there, you know, like the Tea Party crazy people. Hey, don't quote me on that. Yeah, he said on camera. But you can work with the people in the middle. And the key also is if the bill just comes out of somebody that the majority perceives as on the other side, it rarely, even if it's the greatest bill ever, it rarely gets through. You need like a Republican or two to be a co-sponsor, so you can say, it's introduced by someone from both sides. That makes it safer for Republicans. I mean, this is just the way people tend to think. But they do pay attention to, you know, campaigns, whether it's social media or otherwise, and now a lot more than ever. And it's amazing to me, watching the last 5 years, the growing impact of social media and the ability to show people that there's a movement, and they do react to it. I mean, Representative Crowley can speak to it more, but I've done a lot of lobbying, and that's usually the way I approach it.
So, write this website down. Legis, Legis .wisconsin.gov. Legis, Legis.wisconsin.gov. There are two particular committees you want to pay attention to, and you can sign up for updates. Say it one more time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Legis.wisconsin.gov. Legis.wisconsin. Wisconsin can be spelled WI.gov. So this is the website that you can go to see any types of legislation that's coming down the pipeline. But I want you to go to particularly two committees that you want to pay attention to, which is the Assembly Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety, which I'm a member of, and then the Senate Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. And what you can do is you can actually get emails of different types of bills that are going to be directly affecting people within or out of the criminal justice system dealing with these particular committees to know which bills really deal with expungements, which ones are dealing with CCAP, so on and so forth. And I say go on these particular websites because even though personally I've tried to put out as much information as possible, I can't reach everybody. The Judiciary, the Senate Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety, and the Assembly Committee on Criminal Justice and Public Safety. Those are the two committees that pretty much all the criminal justice bills will come through. Now, we do have correction committees, so anything dealing with the corrections, anything happening within the prisons, that will be on the correction committees in both houses. But if you want to know what's going to be coming down the pipeline, what bills get introduced, what bills are getting heard, or what bills are getting voted on, those are the two committees that you want to know so you can be able to start contacting those folks. And it's not just about contacting your legislator, because now that you know the information about these committees, now you can contact everybody on that committee and reach out to them through phone, through email, through mail, or in person. And so that's the lobbying part of it. But it's important that it's not just us there, that we get everybody there. Because I can sit there and talk about, or I can bring my brother with me and he can talk about the fact that he has been struggling to find a job. And while they look at him, they're still going to be criminalizing him like they do many other folks who have been through the system. But when you bring your brother, or you bring your daughter, or you bring your son, or you bring your mother who you've been taking care of, and then they tell the story about how they are affected, it's a different story. Then they start to see the generational effects of how this can affect younger people and the older ones that are being taken care of. And I'm not saying that this is the only way, because even if we're taking this up here at the state level, contact your alderman, contact the mayor, contact the county executive, because they can also be that microphone, they can be that bullhorn to make sure that the voice is being amplified, because they also come up to the state capitol to lobby as well. But it's also making sure we make folks aware who are on the grounds every day. We know that people will sit there and say that, man, you know, this is bad. but they won't pick up a phone call, they won't pick up that pen, they won't do anything to help out. And it's important that we get everybody engaged on this, because when you look at this statistically, they try to talk about the missing fathers that are happening here in the city of Milwaukee, but 50% of the men in their 30s and 40s have some type of criminal background. So if they can't get jobs to take care of their families because of felonies, those are the stories and the experiences that we need to be bringing up to the Capitol. I can bring that to the Capitol, but they also know that I don't have a felony, so they don't think that I'm speaking from experience. But when I talk about my brother, it's a different story.
I'm gonna be rude. I know that we're out of time.
Excuse me, ma'am. If you could just
what
please
about
reserve
ban the
it.
box? Can we get ban the box in Milwaukee?
That's something that we're
Of
working
all the
on.
things, the ban the box?
And I said this, I'll tell you that if I'm not mistaken, the city and the county has done those things. But it's really about getting the state of Wisconsin to do it. And so when the state of Wisconsin does it, then if the state of Wisconsin do it, we can get it to affect private companies versus just government jobs as well. So I know that Senator Lena Taylor has been working diligently on that. I will constantly support her on that. There are some folks who are coming around, but it's important that we talk about that. It's important, and not just us, those who are being directly affected, but those who are indirectly affected by this. That's why I said we have to get employers on board. Because if you have a manager who's sitting there saying, I want to move somebody up, and they're being tied, they should be out there advocating for this. We can't allow people to be on the sidelines with this. You got to get in the game. You know, I was always taught when I was in middle school, either be a part of the solution or you're a part of the problem. And if people aren't going to step, and I'm not saying that everybody can step up, and I'm not saying that everybody should step up, but I know one thing is that there is a role for everybody in this movement.
All right, and if I can just, I got to be respectful to the panelists. The county exec, Judge Ashland, they got other places they got to be to. Judge Ashland got to get to Madison. I know the county exec has another place he's got to be to. So we'll be here. The state rep said he'll be here till about 10:30. We got to take a break right now, so we'll take about a 15-minute break, okay?
But before, you just hold that for one moment. Before we break, I do want to again reiterate that we do have, for our resource fair, we have Milwaukee Urban League that is here, the Hunger Task Force, Social Development Commission, Wisconsin Community Service, and Employ Milwaukee. Many of you have mentioned that you have had a hard time finding employment or keeping employment or moving up in your employment. Please go and talk to them. Many of these orgs are not open on Saturday, so they took out their time to come here, to be here today, because they want to help you. So please do not pass them by. Please take time to go speak with them. Once we come back for our break, you received a number when you checked in today. We will call you in order of your number to speak to someone one-on-one about your particular case. So some of you may have a little bit more complicated cases if you have felonies that were then changed to misdemeanors. So please, I encourage you, come talk to someone. If you feel like you don't qualify, still talk to someone to see if there are changes in the law down the road. What change are you looking for your particular case? So we are going to break briefly, and then once we resume, we will call you in the order, the number which you came. Thank you so much.